Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 6. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Keep in mind that everything I say is completely speculative based on very little information that is edited into a reality TV show. But let's watch.
Bet you're the best damn one over there, too.
You know, that's really sweet of you. I do have something to just kind of lay out there.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty important, and it could be a red flag, but it's a part of my journey of my life.
Okay.
A guess as to what her skeleton in the closet is. I mean, the common things that even we hear on the show would be a history of addiction, a history of having been married before. I mean, but she said it's kind of a red flag. Maybe bankruptcy.
I got married.
Okay. It's not a red flag. I don't understand. I mean, I suppose on some level, well, okay. I guess I'm having an argument with myself in my mind that it is a minor indication of the possibility that someone makes choices without thinking things through, or I guess it depends on why the marriage ended, right? If she cheated throughout the marriage and then it broke up because of that, that's the red flag. But if she fell in love like other people do and the relationship was great, good enough, and you waited a few years, you get married, and then conflict builds up. So I guess, that's another potential red flag, is potential indication that the individual has a difficult time with conflict, or that they create conflict. It just depends on why they broke up. But just having been married, to me, I think logically, it's just another sort of relationship. Like if she had let's just say her past relationship was exactly the same. Everything happened beat for beat, exactly the same with this previous relationship, but they just never got married. Why is that so different? Suddenly now in our society, in our culture, that's like a completely different story. It's not to me.
When I was very young.
How young?
I was 18. He was my high school sweetheart. We were married for almost 5 years.
It's interesting, the parallels for Jimmy, that for both Jessica and... Now, I don't know if we're seeing that Jimmy is also kind of into Chelsea, because, he's definitely into Jessica. But it's interesting that he is being told there's similar story beats to what Jessica was saying.
But it was just not my person.
All right, they edited that. Is that because the rest of what she said was in line with that tiny little sentence that they gave us? Or did they edit out some pretty critical information? The way they're editing it, she's like, yeah, we got married in high school. He was just not my person, so we got a divorce. It feels flippant, at least to me. Maybe it doesn't to others, I don't know. But I'm guessing there's a lot more detail that would tell us the way that she thinks. Though there's indications of maturity that, at least for me, when I watch this show, that you can detect, at least in my book. It's not a clinical indication of maturity. It's not like a scientific fact, my evaluation, but I think there are certain markers, meaning that mature people tend to have more wisdom about a lot of things, including their past. And if someone framed their past relationship in the way that they edited that, it would seem shallow or avoidant, defensive, lack of insight, lack of exploration, an indication that the individual hasn't processed it or reflected back on it thoughtfully. Not everyone has to be a philosopher, but some reflection, right? Some story, some narrative, some way of encapsulating it, right? Instead of just this simple thing of, yeah, I'm a high school sweetheart, we got married when I was 18, and he was just not my person, so end of story. That's the perspective of someone who hasn't lived a a lot of life, someone who hasn't had a lot of time or practice reflecting on things. It doesn't mean that the individual doesn't have a lot of insight, but you would think if someone had some insight, they would reveal it in that moment. This is just one option, but give you an idea of something that I would code as more mature, potentially, as someone saying, yeah, I was a high school sweetheart. We were very in love. I was very young, and I was influenced by my family or religion or whatever. And in fact, that might be what they cut out, because they often on this show will cut out religion. Because on other shows, you will see more evidence of religion because a lot of people are very, very religious. And of course, when it comes to marriage, their religion and culture is very much involved in that. In fact, it might be entirely what they're framing it under in terms of through that lens. So on the show, though, we don't see any indication typically. I think we saw someone last season, right? But it's pretty rare, so it could have been that. But anyway, so something like, yeah, I was young and I was influenced by my religion, meaning that the way I was taught was you can't have premarital sex, and that when you find someone, that's evidence that God is saying you're supposed to be with that person. Looking back, I think I should have waited, and it was a couple years into the marriage before I really figured that out, and I feel bad about the whole thing. And at some point, I just couldn't take it anymore. It just felt like I was with my childhood friend and not really my partner, and he did this and that, and I'm sure he has his complaints about me. But, I was 19. I've matured a lot, grown a lot since then, and it's a mistake. And if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have done that. Something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of other versions of that, right? Or we were very connected, and I learned I just couldn't let go. We were about to graduate and go to different. He was about to go out to college, and I think I was a little clingy back then, and I just didn't want to let go. And I convinced myself, and he really wanted to get married. I don't think I wanted to, but I convinced myself otherwise, and no one was there to advise me otherwise. And I took the leap, and it just never felt right. And I tried to make it work, and we went to counseling, and I just never felt happy. I always felt like I was living a lie. And I'm just so glad that I one day decided that it should end, but I feel so bad that I said yes to begin with. And I vowed since then that I would never commit to something without really, really exploring it. And that's what I've been doing ever since, in therapy and otherwise, something like that. But let's see what happens here.
It doesn't scare me. To be honest, I heard bigger news today that scared me a little bit more.
About me or just in general?
Other people.
Oh.
Sorry to bring up other people.
Jimmy, don't say stuff like that, because she could go back into the lounge and say, well, Jimmy and I were having a great date, and he was telling me that, I don't know, he was told something that was like a really big deal. He said it would like really scared him. And Jessica hears that, blows it out of proportion. You just don't want to get specific.
Yeah, I just have had a lot dumped me today.
I am so sorry. Are you good? Because
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
And on one hand, you just hope that Chelsea would just not say anything in the lounge, just be like, well, I don't know what's going on, I'm not going to get involved. Or she could even feel bad for Jessica, or concerned, because they really bond in the lounge often. And Chelsea could say, hey, I just want to tell you something I heard from Jimmy, and I know we're both kind of going after him, but he said something that I don't know if you know, and I feel like you should know, but I don't know if I should, out of concern. I don't know. As I say that, it sounds a little manipulative, potentially. I don't know. Are we heading in that direction? I guess what I would hope that Chelsea, right? I kept looking at it, that she would just in her mind say, I wonder what that's about. I think I know what that's about, but it would be a mistake to start blabbing.
It's a good thing that you told me, and I'm not judging you for that. And I'm just trying to figure out how to change the subject because I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction if I want to collect my thoughts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to change the subject. I mean, he said the right things. He says, I think it's fine you told me. I'm not judging you. He's basically indicating it's not that big of a deal, which I would think a lot of people would think. And then he says, I want to change the subject. What did he say?
I'm just trying to figure out how to change the subject because I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction.
I want to change the subject because I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction. What is that? Does that mean that he has an impulse to get deeper and he doesn't want to lead her on? But why would he be in a date with her? But he would maybe be thinking, I'm still in that phase where you're dating at least a handful of people. I don't know. That's confusing.
I want to collect my thoughts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Well, okay, he's asking, is that okay? What's happening?
That's okay.
Chelsea.
Sorry, I'm just emotional. Oh, God. I think I'm just emotional because it's kind of hard for me to, I don't know, I was nervous to tell you that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I imagine that her revealing this to him is an indication, maybe even to herself, that she's kind of committing to Jimmy or saying something to Jimmy. And maybe what she was hoping for would be for him to say not only what he said, but to have more weight to it, where he would say, like, hey, if Jimmy would say, hey, if you think that this would interfere with how much I like you, I just want you to know it has no bearing on that at all. I wonder if that's what she was waiting to hear, which would make sense. Instead, what he said is, yeah, that's no big deal. Let's change the subject. Which could be an indication that he isn't really into Chelsea, and Chelsea is now kind of feeling that. Is that what's happening?
I don't want you to think anything negative of it. It's just, I don't want to lead anybody the wrong direction because I tend to catch feelings pretty fast.
Oh, I don't want to lead you the wrong. So maybe that's what he was, interesting. So he had an impulse to be more open and vulnerable and warm or romantic. I don't know what word to put to it. Connection oriented. And he is, what did he say?
I don't want you to think anything negative of it. It's just, I don't want to lead anybody the wrong direction because I tend to catch feelings pretty fast.
Yeah, I do too. You're not going to like everyone, and then that's okay.
Or maybe he is saying that. I don't know what he's saying. I mean, the way they're editing it, they're making it seem like Jimmy is connected to Jessica, at least to some extent. So is that is that the narrative? What did her bracelet say? Be a light, be a light, be a light. At the very least, if he is wanting to pursue her, his behavior is not helping. So I think we could conclude that he is having feelings for her, but ultimately has decided it's not a good idea to be with her, or that he wants to be with Jessica. 'Cause them voices in the dark can get him loud. Yeah, it's tough. I always just wish that people in Jimmy's shoes would say more. I'm just trying to think what or maybe he will in the future, but instead of just like, I don't can we just change subject? Because it feels cold. It feels dismissive. It feels like you're just blowing someone off. Even if you're at the same time saying, yeah, I have feelings for you, but, let's just change the subject. I don't know. To me, in my way, if I were in his shoes, I would at least have the impulse to say, hey, I have feelings for you, and I just think you're just a great person. And because there will still be pain for Chelsea either way. But if you put effort into it and concern and show that you care enough to try to do something, then I think the pain would be mitigated or wouldn't be compounded with, oh, so you're telling me you don't want to be with me, but you have feelings for me. Well, great. And you're not even like trying to fix the problem, and then, or you're not trying to do anything. You're just giving up. It's just like a lack of action. You're just a statue now. And you just want to talk about something frivolous and just have me drift away. Like, it can feel really dismissive. Even though I think he actually does have remorse, like a lot of people do when this sort of thing happens.
What happened? I don't know.
And then, of course, to have that whole thing happen on the heels of having her revealing that she was previously married is particularly hurtful, right? Because it could come across like, oh, so you're saying it's not a big deal, but then I get the vibe that you want to break up with me. Yeah.
What? I told him I was divorced, and it was like,
His reaction was super weird.
I don't even know.
Shit.
And then I start wondering, in terms of my experience with reality TV, that she might start either spreading rumors or information, or even go straight to Jessica and say, let me tell you what Jimmy is like and what he said about you, that you scared him, and da, da, da. Like, is that what we're going to see? By the way, I did talk with someone who works not at the higher levels of this show, kind of a, I don't know if you say like a mid-tier worker, one of what I understand to be hundreds of people that work on this show. And what she told me was that this season is a lot different than the last season. Season 5 had a lot of unprecedented events from previous Love is Blind seasons that if you watched it, you remember. But what she said was she didn't work on that season, but she did work on this season. And she said that this season, season 6, and incidentally season 7, because I think that is also already been filmed, that these seasons are more in line with the good seasons of the past, meaning that there's not a lot of cracks in the foundation of the show, because last season, season 5, it started to reveal issues with the whole process, right? Because people ended up in the pods that had already dated before, blah, blah, blah. And only like a very small set of people actually ended up going to the altar. And there were couples that were filmed completely and excluded at the last second. So apparently this season doesn't have any of that. So there's that. So I'm wondering, I don't know why I'm trying to predict the future. If there was drama in the lounge, I think the person that I talked to would frame that as a normal Love is Blind storyline. So maybe there will be that. All right, well, let's adjourn there. If you want to support what we're doing here, you can become a member of the YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who already is a member. You are the coolest. You can become a member by clicking the join button, or there should be a link in the description. And when you become a member, I am much more likely to read your comments and reply, because there are a lot of comments, and it's just, in terms of time, restraints, I sometimes only have time to read member comments because I can sort by members. Anyway, also, there are member exclusive videos that I publish about once a week on Tuesdays-ish, depending. And there are other benefits too that I'm not remembering. It's all in the thing. You can watch the video on that. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.